and welcome. How are you? How are you? We had to jump a little bit. We were on a different live stream. YouTube kind of got a little bit kooky here, so we're down here now. So if you were in the last live stream chat room before we went live, I apologize. I hope you're with us now. Today we are talking all about the Emblaser maintenance and a whole bunch of other things. If this is your first time look at that. I'm hearing myself. Hang on a second. Let me turn that off. I don't know if you heard me talking just then. It was like a doppelganger was here. It was kind of crazy. But if this is your first time here, my name is Gil Posnanski. I am on a bit of a mission, and my mission is to empower people to make and create. And right now, I love a home-built laser called the Emblaser. It's not really home-built, but it's designed to be used in homes and in schools. It's not an industrial laser, but it is a very, very powerful and nifty diode laser, and that's what we're going to be talking about here today. If you happen to be in the chat room, do me a big solid. Let me know who's in there, and also let me know where you are from around the world, because it is super cool to know who's here, who's using this technology, where people are interesting, and it's just very, very cool. I haven't seen anyone in the chat, so I'm wondering what's going on. About to go live, it says. Let me see. I think because we had that little change, I know people there. Oh, Mike. Mike is from Queensland. I just realized that I had the wrong chat room going. Guys, let me just take care of this. I love being kind of professional here on YouTube. I love what we do here. And we got Audrey from Melbourne as well. That's awesome. I've got a big screen now for the chat. It's awesome. So I will interact with you guys. But what I just realized, and I'm going to do this live, is I've got to tie in the chat so that when we go to the live chat, you guys can see what's going on. It is kind of funny. I think it's funny. But just give me 2 seconds. It's always something with this thing, right? It's always something. Gil, get your act together, man. What's going on? Let's see if we can do that. Oh, we're looking good. Are we looking good? We are looking good. I'm going to share with you how good we're looking. Here's the chat room. We've got Mike from Queensland. We've got Audrey from Melbourne. We've got Adrian from Cooktown. Hey, Adrian. I don't think we've met before. We've got Oliver from Belgium. It's also so cool when we've got people from all around the world. And we've got Naomi from the Sunshine Coast. They're all Australians. Welcome. You know, one of the things that I love about this machine is that it happens to be an Australian-made machine. There's not many maker pieces of technology. They usually come out of the US or China or maybe even Europe. And that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love this machine. I'm a little selfish because I get to go down and into the offices here in Melbourne. Well, not right now because we're locked down because of the COVID-19 issue. It's been like 4 weeks in lockdown. But you know what? I can't wait to go in there and see what they're working on, especially that Emblaser 3. Because as far as I'm concerned, I want the Emblaser 3 now. I want it now. Time Traveler is Blair from New Zealand. So our Anzac cousins are also in the room. It is awesome that you're all here. Before I move on, if this is your first time, or if you enjoy these kind of live streams, or you want to follow along with some of the laser projects, there happens to be a little button right just this way. If you put your eyes down this way, I'm that way, you'll see a little photo of me with a little marker that says subscribe. One of the ways you can support me is just hit that button, and that way you won't miss out on any of the upcoming laser videos and tutorials that I put out, and you won't miss out on any of the live streams either. Right now, we've got quite a few projects in the works. We're just waiting to open up so I can get a cameraman in and go back to Darkly Labs so we can start shooting some of that stuff again. But I have a few things in plan for the next week, so I'll talk to you about that a little bit later on. A way of supporting this, and it's cool when people do this. I make a whole lot of maker stuff. If you want to support this channel, you can do it a number of ways. If you want to help through YouTube, there are super chats or stickers that you can purchase, and a percentage of that comes to me to be able to go and buy materials and continue developing the videos and the laser stuff, as you might have seen. Or if you want to donate something directly, there is down below in the description a one-off PayPal link where if you want to be generous, I really appreciate people's generosity, and it also shows me that you enjoy what I'm doing. So if you want to do that too, you can absolutely do it. Rob Ozzy's in the house. That's Robert from Toowoomba in Queensland. We've got people right around the place, which is so awesome. With that out of the way, and now that we've been introduced, let me share with you one of the things that excites me about bringing this live stream to you every 2 weeks, and that is sharing what people have made using the Emblaser. I mean, to me, this is kind of awesome stuff. So I've got some examples here of what people have created. The very first one comes from Rachel Davidson, who made a cake topper for, it might be her daughter, I'm not too sure, but it's Chelsea's one that was cut out with the Emblaser. So you can see the real fine work there. I know that she was in the Emblaser 2 Facebook group asking, how do you actually protect the feet when you're putting it into a cake? It's some really interesting answers, but that is the type of work that you can do with the Emblaser, and to have that sort of technology at home is incredibly, incredibly awesome. Now, our next example here comes from Kelly Kramer. Kelly Kramer. I'm so Kramer. I'm like, Kramer? No. And this was a project that really kind of caught my attention. She had made a number of cards, obviously for a young child. One of them's talking, obviously, hello world, introducing themselves, and then you've got cards basically for events. Now, one of the things that I really love about this is that Kelly was talking to me in the Facebook group, and she was actually saying that she made these using the cut and print feature. Whoa, there's a box there. The cut and print feature of Lightburn, and she was able to do that by following a tutorial that I had put up a couple of weeks ago. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, Kelly would print out these pieces on a piece of paper, and then the laser cutter would go and cut them out for her, almost like a die stamping machine that would cut out multiple things. So I'm going to put a link below in the actual description that will lead you to that video, and that's something that's really cool about Lightburn and the Emblaser, is the fact that the software is always evolving and giving you more features all the time. And when I saw those, I had a big smile on my face, because Kelly made an incredible project and was able to do that quite easily using not an add-on to the actual physical machine, but an evolution in the software itself. Now, our third example here comes from Laura Jane, and she made these really beautiful paper flowers, again using the Emblaser. You can see there's multiple pieces in there, all cut out with the Emblaser. One of the strengths of a diode laser is the fact that you can repeat jobs multiple times. I've got a feeling she's sketched out the general shape of it and then actually scaled them using different pieces of paper. That's a job, if you're going to do it by hand, you could definitely do it, but you could definitely repeat it a lot faster on something like the Emblaser. So that is an awesome, awesome project. And you know what? I always love to do something in the 2 weeks and share it with you. This week, I decided that my bathroom door needed some sort of logo, or it needed something. So I kind of delved into the things that always inspired me to get involved in technology, and out of EVA foam, I created the Transporter logo from Star Trek The Motion Picture. That's now sitting on my bathroom door. The in-joke with that is actually the fact that on the Enterprise, there were no bathrooms. So, fans always thought, well, if there's no bathrooms, how do people kind of relieve themselves? And the supposition was that when you go through the transporter, it removes everything that doesn't need to go with you. So just in a bit of fun, in a time where we're locked down, we thought that it would be really, really nice to create something. It's a little bit of fanboyish, but again, it shows you the latitude of what you can do with the Emblaser. And I used the same technique I used for my Space Camp logo, which is cutting different pieces in different colors, the same way they actually print, isolating those pieces and then being able to put it together. And that's a video that I'm actually going to bring and release on YouTube really soon. I just need to do a few more pieces, and I need someone behind the camera, but that's going to happen really, really soon. Before we move on, Rob Ozzy in the chat room, those projects look really good. they always look good. That's one of the things that I love about the Emblaser. And we were talking to Julie last week. She runs a small business on the side using her Emblaser. A lot of people take a look at it and say, yeah, I don't know if it's is it a toy? Is it something else? Well, these are the things you can make. I just choose to use EVA foam 1mm sheets because it's fast and quick, and I can knock something like that logo out really, really quickly. Doesn't mean that you have to use EVA foam. You can use anything you want. It's all about the inspiration and then taking it out there and finding your own workflow. The last piece in the gallery that I'm going to share with you today comes from Mike Kolver. Mike's brand new to the Emblaser scene. He just built his first core, and he wrote a sign which I thought was really cute. It says, "Stop, your germs are too big for me. Please look, don't touch, Mummy and Daddy. Thanks so much." This sign hangs on a pram for a child. It's awesome, very creative, especially in the middle of the COVID-19 epidemic right around the world, especially here in Australia. I love seeing the technology used in creative ways like that. Mike actually happens to be waiting for us to have a chat. I'm about to throw to Mike because he's starting his Emblaser journey. I think that it's so important. You guys have heard some people who have played with the technology for a while and have kind of evolved into businesses and into kind of creative stuff. I'm sure Mike is as creative. Let's go over there. Mike, how are you, man? How's things going?
I'm good. Thanks, Gil. Going well.
That's good, man. That's really good. Thank you, first of all, for coming onto the live stream. One of the exciting things, and I say it every time, is I'm always like, I know what I'm going to make because I'm going to make it. Like, I'm going to make the Star Trek sign for my bathroom door, right? And then I would never have thought to have done that. Stop, please, don't touch. I guess it's a sign that you hang. It's a great way of asking people to be respectful without actually being confrontational. Where did that idea come from?
That one came from my wife, actually. She had the idea to make it up, and since we've got the laser, it's quite cool to be able to make up signs and different things like that for it.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's kind of amazing to see that. And again, it's so cool to be able to kind of have a piece of technology like this that was traditionally only in a workshop or only on a factory floor. Tell me a little bit about why you decided to get an Emblaser core and how you made that decision.
I was looking, I'm into just, I don't know, making bits and pieces, usually out of wood and all sorts of things, but I was trying to think, what should I get for myself? I've got friends who've got 3D printers, so I don't need a 3D printer because I can access them. I'd really like a laser cutter. There's a lot of cool stuff, and had a poke around, and one of the guys that's actually on the Facebook group for the Emblaser said, "Oh, I'm trying to figure out, do I get a CNC? Do I get an Emblaser?" I'm like, "Oh, what's that laser? Where's that from?" And that's when he showed me the one from Darkly Labs. And it was a good sort of price range. My budget's not for the $5,000 plus that everything seems to be.
Yeah.
And I like that it was Australian based because it always helps.
Sorry,
it's good to support your own country type of thing.
Absolutely.
But warranty support's good when it's local as well. So that's kind of why I ended up. And I've got the core, the version in particular. I like the idea of being able to put bigger materials through the sides. And I think with the recent, there was a Lightroom tutorial actually for doing like larger things than the actual bed size. So I have to have a look at that and put something in practice.
That's right. Someone did a light burn using, again, that print and cut feature. They were able to scale out, I think it's a mermaid, and they cut it out of one piece of material that you wouldn't be able to fit in an enclosed printer. I think they used a thunder laser and they were feeding it through the front and the back. It's not something you can do on the Emblaser 2, unfortunately, but with the core, you do have the ability to kind of line up that graphic, and that's awesome. It is very cool. So it sounds to me that you're kind of more on a maker level, or you've got a hobby that you want to you just said before you had some friends who were talking about 3D printers and maybe CNCs. Tell us what's your plan with your core?
Well, I'm into RC aircraft, planes, and tricopters, and anything that flies, I guess, or
Very cool.
radio control. So I want to build my own glider out of balsa wood, and rather than doing the sort of old school manual sandpaper and sort of carving with a knife and things, it's like, well, I can just get a sheet of balsa, draw it up on the computer, and I can cut out 10 or 15 pieces within probably half the time I've put the jig together to try and make one piece. So
Absolutely. And what I like about it too, when it comes to workflow, is the fact that it's repeatable. If you make something and people want a copy of it, it's just an electronic file. You put that piece of balsa in, and balsa works really well with a diode laser. You know, I got to be honest with you. It's something that I like playing with. When I'm making my models or I'm making things, I need a little bit more rigidity to it. But it has been something that I've cut, and it's awesome to see the result that you can get out of it. So the main reason you bought this was for your RC kits?
Yeah, because I can make up. I mean, other than the sort of like parts of the wings and that, you can cut out the like plastic and things to make legs for different things.
Sure.
I mean, if you want an example, sort of,
oh, they're perfect.
But it's like piece that uses for an aerial for a video transmitter. So there's all sorts of ideas. The more you sort of think about things.
Now, was that a piece you cut on the core?
That's not a piece I've cut, but a piece that I could replicate. So
absolutely,
or make something similar.
Yeah, no, that is it's kind of boggling. You enter this world of technology from one angle. Have you actually found other things that you want to develop and create with the Emblaser?
I've been thinking about making just some old school. I actually thought of an idea. If everyone has the game memory where you flip the cards over.
Sure.
I thought about sort of making it personalized with about 5 centimeter diameter sort of circles, and just have my family's faces on them, sort of thing, so they can be flipped upside down, so the kids can play and they can find their own faces, or they can find their mum and dad.
That's a really cool idea. Yeah, that's a super cool idea, especially with the fact that you can just engrave a photo. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to play with, and I haven't got around to it, is I wanted to make a challenge coin. So for those of you who don't know, a challenge coin is something that you award someone when they've achieved something. And I thought, wow, how cool would it be if you have friends who are like RC enthusiasts and you're flying planes around. If you hit something, you could make a coin, literally, just kind of engrave away with the laser, and you could have like a one-off or multiple coins that only your friends have for achieving something that's awesome.
Yeah, my first tree I crashed into.
Yeah, well, you never know. I have one in the cupboard behind us. I should have pulled it out. In December last year, I took some students to space camp at NASA, and I wanted to give something personal to the people who were helping us out, because we got to meet astronauts who flew into space, right? They're my heroes, right? That they did what I always wanted to do, right? So I made badges with a kangaroo on a rocket flying in space, right? So it's uniquely Australian, and I put that on a card and gave it to them as gifts, and then paid them up by hand and a whole bunch of things. And that was all done on the Emblaser. And when the students saw this, they all wanted one. So I had to come back and make a whole bunch for them. But you know, yeah, well, not so much, because all I just needed to buy the material. It was just one piece of a poplar wood, and then I had it all worked out. At that time, though, I'll be honest with you, they didn't have that print and cut feature, so I misaligned the circle from the actual engraved circle. Now it wouldn't be a problem. So there was a little bit of work, just kind of cleaning up the edges a little bit. But with all that said and done, it was a winner.
Even without the print and cut feature, you kind of think, though, how can I work something? I just made some little, again, the coin size type things for a wedding invite. And they wanted one side of the coin with the date and the second side with the names. I'm like, oh, how do I figure out where it's going to fit? So I first just put an A4 sheet of paper down, cut the circles on that, and that was taped to the bottom. And then I would just put the pieces of wood in the circles and just move them at a time so I could keep them in the same place.
Oh, that's a perfect idea. You know what? Again, it's all about workflow. Once you understand the workflow and how it works, it's about how then applying it. And I think that making is really a form of communication. So whether or not it's the game you were describing, or whether or not it's a sign, or whether or not it's the remote control planes, it's all about where you want to take it. So it is awesome. How long have you had your core for, Mike?
Probably 3 to 4 months.
Oh,
maybe.
right. So you're starting your journey. I'm excited. I'm excited for you, man, because like if it's only 3 months and you're already producing these ideas, it's just going to get stronger and stronger. And you know what? I'm totally excited for you. I wish I could kind of go back to when I first started playing with the Emblaser or any laser technology, really, because your mind explodes about what the possibilities can be. In the last 3 months, what's your feeling with the core itself? Like, do you have anything that really blows you away with the way the machine works, or maybe you have something that in the future you would like to see added or modified to the Emblaser?
The core is kind of cool. Like, I mean, initially I got the core because it's a good price point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's also more of your hobby, kind of put together, make it up type of thing. And your build video that you did actually was handy for that.
Thank you.
And then a couple of other, like, I guess features would be quite cool to maybe try and utilize the magnetic base a bit more,
Right.
especially with the core, because you can feed like a long piece in. But
Absolutely.
if you, I guess, without the print and cut side of things, you might want to be able to see some way that you can kind of slide the piece, but keep it on the same sort of horizontal plane, and maybe some sort of magnetic kind of brackets that'll do that, or some way to hold things.
You might not have seen, but there are what they call mag clips, which are little razors that magnetically clip onto the base of either an Emblaser or an Emblaser 2. And the idea is, if you're cutting sheet material, there's no buildup of heat, so there's not a lot of scorching, and the piece just falls straight through if you've set it up that way. So in a way, these brackets come out on the side. I happen to make a video about that, so I'll share that with you guys as well. You can 3D print these parts and buy the magnets, and they have a top that screws down, so you just put them on the side of the material, and you can adjust them. You can make them any height you want. So I think the basics design is 10, I think it's 20 mil, so it's a little bit higher. But when it comes to cutting, and I was thinking about it, you could have a whole bunch of these, and then you could have it on the magnetic base, and then when you slide it through, if you had even a rail system where you put a piece of wood and clamped it on, you could just keep sliding it up there, work out those 2 points on print and cut, and just go for it. There's definitely something to think about. And I think, especially if you're going to be cutting balsa, I mean, the mats are great, but it also gives you a little bit more flexibility. It's very cool.
Definitely.
So it sounds to me like you're kind of hooked up with a whole bunch of friends who have got one, maybe one guy's got a 3D printer, one guy's got a CNC, one guy's got a laser, right? What's the big plans? Is it just to kind of get together and create stuff, or do you have a vision of where you want to go with the stuff that you're making?
I think we all sort of like work together. Like when the other weekend we came around and just had a bit of a makerspace in the garage.
That's
Just
great, man.
chatted and bought things to make around. And but I had a friend who's fixing up some old like Ataris and Apples, and wants to make some cases for like the old floppy disks. And he's like, I don't know how to. I don't want to have to hand cut 30 or 40 of them. I said, just print them out. I can cut them. So we're kind of like working with each other. I need a part printed, so I'll hit up my friend, and he might need a piece cut out on the laser. So we just sort of like interact and utilize each other's resources and then just
that's awesome. First of all, I've got to say, I'm totally jealous. I've been locked up for like 5 weeks now. I'm dying to get into a garage or makerspace with my friends and just make something. As fun as it is to create stuff by yourself, it's so much more fun when you're working out those problems together, and really making is a collaborative problem solving. So, it's just a weekend for you, and it's something that I know a lot of people here in Victoria, whether they know it or not, are just dying to be able to go in there and actually hang out with everyone. It sounds like, as I was saying before, I'm totally excited to see your Emblaser kind of journey beginning. I know you've got a core. We announced, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that the Emblaser 3, or I like the term Emblaser Pro. Maybe we got to do a hashtag, and everyone will be like, Emblaser Pro, no Emblaser 3, Emblaser Pro, is going to bump up the power by 10, which means you're basically going to have 50 50 watts
Yeah.
of power blasting through material. It's not going to help on clear perspex because the laser works on the visible spectrum. But with that, would you I'm not. I guess the question is, would you see yourself going out of balsa and maybe using different materials to make kind of scale models that could fly, or maybe what I'm excited about is I've got a nephew. I want to make him a billy cart, and laser cut some of the panels, and to do it on the Emblaser right now, I'd be faster on a bandsaw, but on 50 watts, man, it's like the sky's the limit.
Yeah, well, you got I think the cool thing with the Emblaser is you've got, I think, a 5 centimeter height that you can actually use from the thickness. So having a more powerful laser will probably allow you to use thicker items, even if it's just thicker wood or other items and things. So you probably, I think you'll utilize the thickness a bit more with the more power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mike, it's a bit amazing talking to you, especially because you're so early on in your journey. And why I keep repeating it is, it's just, like I said, I'm just really excited for you, number one. But I think it's really important that people hear that you don't have to be years of experience to use this technology. You can jump in. I mean, I'm assuming that because you put together the core, and tell me if I'm wrong, you have a really strong idea of how this piece of machinery works.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, at the moment, I actually need to pull it apart a little bit and retension the belts just to try and make the circles and things a bit tighter.
Yep.
But it would definitely good if you need to troubleshoot sort of what areas you've put together, or if you need to replace a part.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what I loved about the core. It really does take a slant, more of a hands-on, do-it-yourself maker direction. But I realize that a lot of people are going to understand the mechanics. It's not kind of like voodoo science. It's actually, once you understand what's going on, it's really based around the same technology on a 3D printer. If I can move around in a three-dimensional space, in the case of the laser printer, it's a two-dimensional space. Oh, actually, it has a third because it does focus on with the lens, the height. Once you understand that, and it's really about delivering, so instead of having material spit out, it's actually delivering energy that's burning away at a fine spot, and by moving it around, you're actually able to cut things out. It's not hard to understand what the next step in that sort of technology is all going to be about. So it is awesome, man. I would love to keep in touch and see what you're doing in 6 months' time, or even 2 years' time. Maybe if you're open to it, come back on the Laser live stream and start sharing some of those projects and maybe some of the hurdles and how you got around them, because those are the learning. That's what it's all about. And you know what? I'd much rather be learning with a laser, creating things, than reading it out of a book.
Yeah, definitely. Like with the RC flying stuff, they say if you're not crashing, you're not flying.
Right.
So you're always learning there. So with the laser, I was thinking the other day, it's not really got anything consumable. Like a printer, you got to keep paying for like the filament, but with the laser, it's like just keep using it, trial and error,
pretty much,
and like go from there.
The closest thing you're going to get to a consumable is probably the laser diode itself, but it's rated for thousands of hours. If you were using your laser cutter constantly, 24 hours a day, in probably a couple of years, you'd probably have to replace it. And I think it's about a $300 or $400 part. So even in that case, there's definitely 3D printers that filament costs a lot more. And I was just thinking about even the domestic printers, the paper printers. You get a high-end paper printer, 3 cartridges, you're out $300. So you're 100% right. As long as you keep feeding material in safely, test the material first, of course. Don't want to burn anything that's got PVC, because we all know what that can do. It'll not only gas yourself, it'll actually eat away at your machine. It won't work eventually because all the rubber will be attacked with it. But you know what? It's awesome. I want to really, Mike, I thank you so much for coming on board. I know when we first spoke, you were like, I haven't really used the machine. That's cool, because it's all about journey. And I'm sure there's someone either watching right now or who will watch this live stream later will connect with hey, you know what? I thought about that and Mike was able to do it. So why don't I jump on board? And you know what? If we're sharing that experience, and that's what this live stream is all about, we are able to go forward and basically express ourselves add a little bit of something into the world, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? I hope this all lifts, and maybe one day we can get together and fly some RC stuff. I'm ready to build a Blue Thunder RC helicopter. You know, it's like since the 14-year-old is like, I got to make that one day. So so now I
that'd
know
be
who to
good.
ask
I'm
about
an
that.
Airwolf. I
You're an
like the
Airwolf
Airwolf
person?
one, but Blue Thunder's good.
It's funny. I was actually speaking to some people on another live stream, and I have a connection to Airwolf. The guy who designed it was a guy by the name of Andrew Probert, who designed the Enterprise and a whole bunch of things as well. And the last job that he had in Hollywood was Airwolf. So the very first time that I visited him in America, he had the Airwolf helmet that goes on, and the speaker piece. I don't know if we're getting geeky here, but give us a moment. There's a speaker piece at the front of the helmet just before, and he goes, "Do you know what that piece is?" And I said, "No." And he showed me his son's little Kenner at Star Wars Walker from the Empire Strikes Back. The back piece, he had pinched it off there and designed it to fit in there just this little in joke. And I was we were both laughing at it. So it was the geeks in us. But Airwolf was very, very cool. But yeah, you make Airwolf, I'll be there with Blue Thunder. We'll shoot a versus project. It'll be really cool.
Sounds good.
Mike, thank you so much again. And I'm going to go and show people how to do their maintenance on their machine. So if you want to stick around, that's great. But we'll thank you again for coming on board and sharing your journey. And man, this is what it's all about.
Thanks for having me very much. Thank you.
No problems. Thanks, Mike. All right, guys. Again, I just want to thank Mike for coming on board. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking coming and sharing your experience. And I think, you know what, his experience is exactly where you need to begin. In 3 months, he's jumped on board with both hands, and he's already creating pieces and has a finite idea of where he wants to go. It's not like, hey, I'll get this machine and then work it out. It's more like, I'm going to use this to actually help out on my hobby. So it's great to be able to have him on board. I get lots of questions from a whole bunch of different areas. Sometimes they come from Facebook, sometimes they're on YouTube, and sometimes they're emailed to me. And I recently got a number of questions asking me, what was the best way to do maintenance on the Emblaser? Or do I need to maintain the Emblaser? Or how do I clean it? So I've actually been putting together a bit of a video, but I wanted to share with you guys now, using a slideshow, the steps I use to keep my Emblaser in tip-top condition so that I can actually have a machine that's ready to go at any time. There's I think it's about 8 steps, but the very first one is something that a lot of people miss out on. And in fact, when you get the Emblaser, you get a little bit of a toolkit. One of the things in that toolkit is a mascara brush. A lot of people look at me and they go, why do I have a mascara brush here? Well, that's actually to clean the laser head and the heat sink in the fan. So it is a kind of a cool tool. You can see there, I'm actually using the mascara brush to clean the fan. So any of the debris that gets kind of blasted into the air before it gets sucked out, sometimes gets sucked in there. And if you can see in the second photo, I've actually pushed that brush all the way through the heat sink, and it fits beautifully in there. So I'm actually cleaning out the heat sink, which basically makes sure that the diode doesn't overheat when I'm using it, and the fan itself. And if I can clean all of that out, I can actually keep the life of the fan going really well. So I do that quite often, and it's something that you can actually put. If you've got the Emblaser too, you can take that mascara brush. There's a little lip on the side. I put it there. I'm forever going in and just cleaning that out. That's the first step to maintenance that I do. My second step here is actually also to clean what is called the laser driver PCB fan. A lot of people don't realize this, but if you turn your Emblaser around, so the actual laser is now pointed to the back, there's a little box. You need to use a screwdriver to remove 2 screws. When you open that up, and you can see that in the second photo, you actually get access to a little fan that's on the electronic board that fires off the laser. That little fan gets clogged with a whole bunch of debris. And in that second photo on this slide, you can't really see it, but that's that brush going in there and cleaning that fan as much as I can possibly. So the whole idea is when you're cleaning it now, all that debris is falling into the machine. which is what I want to do, because the very next step, I'm going to clean all of that stuff out. But you can go in with that brush and maybe with some compressed air, and you can actually hit that fan, get as much of that debris out, because it does clog up the fans, and you are in business. Once that's actually done, reassemble it again. So just reassemble, put those screws back into the box. It aligns with actual tabs, so it's not very hard to do. The first time you want to take a little bit of time to do it. You want to make sure that you're able to disassemble it and reassemble it. Keep an eye on where all the cables are, because that'll also show you where the slots are cut out for the cables. Once you've done it one time, it's an absolute breeze. Just be sure to collect the screws, because if they fall into the mats, they're the same color as the silicon mats. So you may spend some time actually trying to hunt around for those screws. The next step in maintaining your Emblaser 2 is actually to do a really quick visual check for damage on your machine. And you can see here I'm actually pointing out what areas that I'm looking at. I'm looking at all the belts, the pulleys. I'm looking at anything that's mechanical that may be broken or may need to have a replacement part or may need to be adjusted a little bit. That's what I'm doing. I'm looking all over the machine. Anything that's cracked, anything that's broken, I'm pretty confident that I can go and get spare parts if needed. But it's just a way of being able to visually inspect your machine and know exactly what is going on. Because the last thing you want to do is you don't want to have something that's cracked and then in the middle of a 6-hour burn or maybe even a 2-hour burn or half an hour burn, when you're away, you don't want something, a cog or a pulley or something like that, breaking off, jumping out. Now the laser's stuck in one place. It's feeding in the material, the power into the material. You don't want anything to catch a light. So you know what? Take that opportunity to just do a quick visual scan. I look definitely in there. Normally I take my phone and turn the light on so I can look right into the darkness, and hey, you know what? That's the best way to be able to check that out. Then I move on to the next step. And the next step here is simply to remove the silicon mats from the machine. And you can see there, I've got debris from a number of cuts. I just collect them all out and I put them to the side, because I will actually even clean those mats in a future step. Once those mats are out, I'll actually take a vacuum cleaner and start vacuuming the interior of the machine, or getting anything that's big enough to be vacuumed out. That's exactly what I do, right? So I'm in there in the corners, I'm in there on the surface, I'm trying to pick up as much debris and as I can get. And I just saw Shyla Rose is in the house. Thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us, Shyla. We're just going through maintaining your Emblaser. Once I've actually vacuumed all of the material up that's been embedded, it will start looking good. But the surprising thing is you can get a moist towelette or a paper towel with some water, or if you want to go the whole route, you can get a disinfectant wipe, and I start cleaning down all the surfaces. And you know what? You'd be surprised. Those towels that I'm using actually come out black, and it's all soot and material that is actually been collected over different jobs that I've done. So it is kind of crazy. Once that's actually done, I move on to actually cleaning both the top and the bottom of the lid. And a lot of people go, Gil, why would you want to clean the lid? Well, for two reasons. One is that's my ability to see what's going on with the job. Now, the outside's usually clean, but when it comes to the inside, you'll be surprised at how much really fine kind of black soot has actually clinged to the inside of that lid. Wipe it all down. I usually use a fresh wipe so I can see exactly what's going on. And that's what I'm doing here. I clean the outside as well as the inside of the lid. Something that a lot of people forget about. But if you're going to do the job, we're going to do it one time and we're going to do it correctly. After that, it's a job or the next thing I do on the job is actually clean the laser lens. Now, if you haven't cleaned the lens on your laser before, it's not that hard. I have a video on YouTube right now that's live, and I'm more than happy to put a link into that video. Again, it's one of those things that the first time you do it, you kind of hold your breath. You're not too sure exactly, but once you've done it once, you can actually get the time down on cleaning something like that to literally 30 seconds. And I actually clean my lens almost every single time that I end up working with the Emblaser. So I found that as long as I clean that lens, I get the maximum power straight through to the material and a cleaner cut. Rob Ozzy is asking in the chat room, do all Emblazers come with silicon mats? Yes, they do, Rob. So if you've got an Emblaser, you will have a silicon mat like that, and that's about 10 mil high, and you put the material on top of that of those mats. It's kind of cool. I enjoy doing that. I also, in this step, I actually take the hood off the laser, and I actually put it to the side because I'm going to then, when I clean the mats, I'm also going to clean the silicon hood to make sure that there's nothing no gunk, no black soot that can actually get in the way of that laser beam and the energy that's being transmitted down it. So as I was saying, I actually wash the silicon mats and that lens hood. It's a really simple job. What I'll do is I'll fill up a basin, just like I have here. I put 1 squirt of liquid soap because liquid soap helps the soot not stick to the silicon once it's actually free in the water. And I will basically just dunk that mat into the water, shake it around a little bit, and I'll do the same thing with the hood. Now, again, people say to me all the time, they go, Gil, hang on, you're cleaning the mats? I don't clean the mats. Why would you want to clean the mats? Well, for 2 reasons. One is, if you've got very light charring on your mat, by cleaning it, the mats can come out looking brand new. Now, if you've done the same pattern over and over again, you will scorch the mat. But the really interesting thing about it is the amount of material that comes off the mat and the hood is astounding. In fact, it's so important that I took a before and after. So you can see here on the left is the water before I put any of the mats in, and on the right is after I cleaned 1 of the 4 mats. So you can see in the water there, it's all dark. It's kind of a lot darker and it's got some materials and floaties in there. That came from 1 of the 4 mats that was in my Emblaser for about a month. So you can see how much material and how much of that soot kind of builds up over time. So definitely take a moment, wash your mats, wash your hood laser, because the last thing you want to do is you don't want material, you don't want that soot kind of near the opening of the hood, right? So the laser's coming in, it's heating up a little bit of air, soot's getting in the way, it's deflecting the energy. No, man, take a moment. And literally, you can clean all of those in 2 minutes. Put them out, air dry them, stick them back in your Emblaser, you're good to go. Now, in the last step is actually to grease the rails. So all the Emblazers come with a little pack. There's a little pack of something called Super Lube, which is just a synthetic lubricant. And it's suggested just to use a synthetic lubricant simply because of the fact that you don't want to use anything that's too sticky. And in fact, a lot of people go, well, it's not a lot of lube, right? It's like, I cleaned the machine twice, now I don't know what's going on. If you actually look at the packet, that packet has about 20 applications, because all you need is to put enough lube on your finger about the size of a pea. So what you want to do is, once you've got it on your fingers, you kind of want to rub it together, and you don't want a lot of it. You actually want it to feel a little bit like you're putting kind of like hand or moisturizer on. You want a very thin film, and then using your fingers with the lube, you want to go back and you actually want to drag it across the rails. You want to have a very, very thin layer of grease on those rails, really for 2 reasons. And one is, you don't need a lot of lubrication. There isn't a lot of push and pull when it comes to the laser mount. But the other part about it is, too much lubricant will actually start attracting that kind of soot and dust that we've been trying to remove when you're doing your maintenance. So if you have too much of it, it'll build up around the bearings, and it'll actually do the opposite of what you want, which is to keep everything going as silky smooth as possible. The least resistance, the tighter your circles, and the better your machine's going to work. So definitely, they are the steps that are needed to do maintenance. I'm actually going to release a video showing me doing those steps, but I wanted to throw that out here because people have been asking me questions for quite some time. How do I keep maintenance? Now the big question about it is, now that you know how to do it, how often should you do it? And that's an interesting question. So if you're using your Emblaser a lot, so if you're doing it for business, or if you're in a classroom or you're in an education situation where you are forever, using the machine maybe 8 or 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, you want to be doing this maintenance every 4 to 8 weeks. So it sounds like a lot, but you know what? You want to make sure that your material and anything that you've got in the Emblaser is taken care of, so you don't actually need to worry about, when you put a new piece of material in. And I gotta be honest with you, I had this situation where I used some white material and I put it onto the mats, and when I picked up the pieces I cut, they were all black. They all had soot on them, and I couldn't use them because I basically had used the machine. I hadn't cleaned it out for a while. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that any material is not tainted with the stuff that's you've cut previously. And this black kind of charring soot, it's a little bit like charcoal. So it's really hard to get off, and it gets everywhere. Now, if you're happening to use your Emblaser, lightly, it's recommended, every 4 to 6 months, just to clean out your machine. You might want to do certain tasks more often. Now, when it comes to cleaning your lens, I do that almost every time I start my machine, right? That's not 4 to 6 weeks. That's every time. That's what I do. You may want to do it if you're cutting something and you found that the first couple of cuts work, and then, you know what? You seem to lose a little bit of power. Cleaning the lens will actually fix most of those problems up. And the dirtier your machine is on the inside, the more chances you get material sticking to the lens. And that's what cleaning the lens is all about. It's about removing all that kind of fine charcoal type burnt gristle that's in your machine. So I would definitely do it that way. So again, 4 to 8 weeks if you're using it every day, and then some light, if it's light use, do it every 4 to 6 months. That'll keep your Emblaser working really, really well. So, I hope that helps someone. I mean, I know you guys are really quiet in the chat room today, but if you've got any questions about the maintenance, please put them up there and we'll definitely kind of work through that. So, it is a kind of a cool thing to know, because you know what, the first time you're going to do maintenance like this, it'll probably take you 40 minutes, and the next time you do it, it'll take you 10. Because once you know how to do it, you'll tear through it. That 10 minutes will take your machine and actually make sure that it's running in its best way, and you'll be able to get a lot of use and a lot of life out of it. Now, I've also had some follow-up questions about maintenance, which I'm going to just go quickly answer. And the first one was, do you have to replace the fans quarterly if you keep them clean? And to be honest with you, the answer to that is no. You only need to replace the fans in your machine if they don't work anymore, or if they're really, really noisy and they bother you, or alternatively, if you haven't cleaned your machine at all. You may get a buildup of the dust and the, I don't know, I think the technical term is gook, right? That black gook. If it jams the fan, then yes, you're gonna have to replace it. But if you keep them clean, you can keep those fans going for as long as you possibly want. So you don't have to change them quarterly at all. If you put a little bit of maintenance in there, you will be able to use everything that's on your machine without a problem. And the second follow-up question here is that actually relates back to what I was talking about before, is like, can you use a 3-in-1 type oil to lube the bearings, as the grease on the rails don't seem to be enough for the bearings? That's a very interesting question, because as I was saying before, you don't need a lot. Too much grease, and synthetic grease especially, and don't use anything else but synthetic grease. It's a hard word to say sometimes. To lube your rails, 3-in-1 oil, it's thin, but it gathers up a lot. So this recommendation from the guys at Darkly Labs is find yourself a nice synthetic grease that's very thin. And again, you don't need a lot. You just need the size of a pea. Just spread it between your fingers and you'll know when it's nice and thin, and then just kind of go down the rails. you know, that thin layer will actually help out a lot. And in fact, when you're cleaning your Emblaser, it's also suggested that people don't wipe down the rails because you're actually removing that thin layer of grease. So you know what? You learn something every day, I think, because it's just one of those things. I always thought the more you put like lubricant on, the better it is, right? Well, no, in this case, it's actually a small amount will go a very long way. So there you have it. That's the best way to maintain your Emblaser. Of course, if you have any other problems with your machine, I strongly suggest getting in touch with the guys at Darkly Labs. They have an incredible aftermarket service, and you know, they have a whole team there who's ready to help you with your questions. And we've seen it even here on the Laser live stream. The guys, when Dom was here, some people were asking questions. He was more than happy to be able to help and work out what is going wrong. And again, that's what I absolutely love about the guys at Darkly Labs. Mike's in the chat room saying, thanks for having me all. Mike, it's our pleasure. I absolutely, you know, good timing, because I was going to say, I want to thank Mike Kolver for coming on board and sharing his laser journey. It's kind of fun to hear, and in a way, I'm excited to hear what he's doing. Guys, if you've learned something from this live stream, if you got something out of this and you want to help support what's going on, the very best way is to actually, first of all, hit that little, it's right in this corner, hit that little subscribe button with a picture of me. That makes sure that you don't miss any of the live streams, and it also helps you from not missing any of the maker stories and videos. And I do a lot of stuff on the Emblaser and Lightburn. So that's the first way. You can also support us by the stickers or the super chats in the chat room, or again, if you really want to, you can actually do a one-time donation through PayPal, and that happens to be just below there. So you know what? All the money that's raised through these live streams, they all go into getting materials so that I can make projects. That's pretty much what's going on there. Sounds to me that everyone had a really cool time with the stream today. Not a lot of questions, but that's okay. We're gonna call it the stream. I'm looking here, and we're actually coming up to just under an hour. So if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. It's been a kind of a crazy time here in Victoria, as I've been saying. So it's great to be able to connect with other makers and other Emblaser users. I hope you guys get something out of it. You know, it's my pleasure to be able to share what I learn. And you know what? We're going to be here in 2 weeks' time with another live stream, laser live stream. If you want to get involved, the best way is to reach out on Facebook in the Emblaser 2 users group, or alternatively, just leave me a note down here. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, and you know what? Maybe you've got yourself a question that you want to answer. It'll be awesome. AJK in the chat room got in there right beforehand. He goes, thanks for the tips. I'm going straight out to my shed and start cleaning. Take care and stay safe. Thank you so much, AJK. I appreciate it. You know what? Sometimes you just need to have a little bit of a direction to be able to go out and do that. Go and let me know how it goes after you clean up your Emblazers. Tell me if there's any difference. I'm really curious. You know, one of the great things about live streams as opposed to videos on YouTube is it's a two-way street. You know, you guys can communicate with me, but I look forward to hearing your experience just cleaning up your machine and what happens next. Until then, stay safe. If you happen to be in a place that's suffering from COVID-19 right now, do me a solid and just wash your hands, wear a mask, go ring up someone and say, hey man, I'm thinking about you, because ultimately we're all gonna get through this together. And during that time, get creative with your Emblaser. Make something cool and send it to me so I can show it off to everyone here. Okay? Guys, thank you so much. Stay safe. I will see you in 2 weeks. And until then, stay creative. I'll see you then.